name is Catherine Huang. I'm a principal engineer from McAfee. Today's presentation and talk on the topic of how can we walk towards security in machine learning. Yeah, I don't know how many people are familiar with machine learning in the background, but I will go through some of the concepts about the relationship between the security and the machine learning. Especially in today's talk, you will hear about how security can help with machine learning, make machine learning more robust. So the agenda of this talk, including some basic overview about adversary machine learning. I'll talk about the concept and how security related to machine learning. And then we will go through some of the use cases in adversary machine learning attack. And then I will go through two use case we applied adversary machine learning in McAfee, and some defense mechanism and summary. First is give an introduction about adversary machine learning. As you all know, machine learning and artificial intelligence have breakthrough in the latest year. It's including in image recognition, AlphaGo, robotics, machine translation, and speech recognition. On the right, you see for image net recognition, lately, especially after 2015, the performance of artificial intelligence and machine learning technology have exceeded human performance. So with all these technology involved, also we need to look into what's the vulnerability of this technology in adversary setting. So that's the topic adversary machine learning more about. In the research area, adversary machine learning is to make sure the safe adoption of machine learning and artificial intelligence in adversary setting. So you can see the book Adversary Machine Learning is has published by University of UC Berkeley last year, and OpenAI have this position paper in malicious use of artificial intelligence, specifically discuss the forecasting, prevention, and mitigation of malicious use of AI. NIPS, which is Neural Information Processing System, is a top one AI conference. Also held the first and the second year of the Adversary Machine Learning Data Challenge, specifically to raise awareness about the attack and defense mechanisms. Even more, we have Clever Hands, which is open source adversary machine learning library to showcase, provide a tool for us to developing adversary machine learning attack and experiment the defense mechanism. As you know, adversary machine learning had originally started way before deep learning. It originally started from the spam filter in 2004 and 2005. And then it's moved forward to UC Berkeley research, and in Europe, we also have some publication in this domain for malware detections. After that, in 2014, the first paper on adversary example using deep learning was published by Sajidi. That paper really brought great attention in identifying the vulnerability of deep learning. After that, Goodfellow, Papernard's paper, and the Kalini's attack, Koraking's attack, has been published and track a lot of study in this domain. Moreover, in addition to these digital attack, which means they can modify like in image space from the pixel to physical attack, which means the attacker may not have access to the sensing result. How these type of attack can deploy in physical space. So there are multiple paper from UC Berkeley, the physical attack paper to traffic sign, and the CMU paper on facial recognition, and MIT's paper on 3D objects. And then UC Berkeley has a paper on not just for the supervised learning, also identify reinforcement learning, which is another mechanism of machine learning, also vulnerable to this type of attack. So you can see there are more and more publications in this domain in these 2 years. As you know, security problem is always an arms racing problem for attacker and defender. So it's the same as how we can work towards secure machine learning and artificial intelligence. We need to change from reactive defense to proactive defense. So as you see from the reactive defense, we basically analyze the system adversary can devise the attack and then design the countermeasure and to do the defense. But we want, in order to be proactive, we want to also model the adversary attack and simulate this type of attack so that we can evaluate the impact of this attack and then develop a better countermeasures to these new type of attack. So this has become more advanced than the previous defense. Based on attackers' knowledge, these adversary machine learning have 3 types of attack. One is Whitebox attack, which assume attacker have full knowledge about your machine learning model and what type of feature you are using. Another type of attack is attacker has limited knowledge, so the attacker does not know the model, but has some knowledge about your features. And then black box attack, which means the attacker has no knowledge about your system. So we want to take a look how this works. The concept of adversary machine learning is how attacker can manipulate the system to make the attack successful. So there are 2 types of attack in this concept. One is called poisoning attack. It happens at training time, which means this type of attack can change the model parameters because they can change the training data. The second type of attack is called evasion attack, which happen at test phase, the inference phase. So the attacker can manipulate your test sample so that it can evade the detection or cause the misclassification of this prediction result. So it will increase the false negative in security domain, for example, like malware detector. So as we describe, the attacker have different goals. So we can differentiate this type of attack as targeted attack or non-targeted attack. For example, if we want to do facial recognition, it can be targeted to specific person. Whereas the non-targeted attack, which means you just want to do the attack so that the system cannot recognize the legitimate person. Another type of attack is based on attackers' capability. As I said, there are digital attack versus physical attack. Digital attack means the attacker have the capability to access to a digital information. For example, the feature space, like in image, there will be the pixels. Like for malware detection would be the malware features. For physical attack, which means the attacker has no access to your digital system, that it can manipulate the physical space. For example, like environment, put some sticker on the traffic sign to make the misclassification for traffic sign recognition, for instance. The third type of attack, as I just described, is based on attacker's knowledge. We have white box, gray box, and black box attack. So after we learn about these concepts and terminology of adversary machine learning, I want to just describe the concept about the evaluation curve. We call it security evaluation curve. But basically, it's how we evaluate a machine learning system or AI system is a high performance system or successful system. So in the adversary setting, right? X-axis is the attack strength or attack obviousness, like how we can visualize the attack. And then the y-axis is the accuracy of the system. So the red curve is one system and the black curve is another system. You can see for the red curve, when we don't have attack, so this system have higher accuracy. But when we the attack strength getting stronger and stronger, the performance drops significantly. In contrast to that, the black curve is the other system, C1. Even though when we don't have the attack, the accuracy is a little bit lower than the C2, but it's keep robust or resilient to this type of attack when attack strength getting stronger and stronger. So in this case, we will prefer the C1 than C2 because this is more robust to adversary perturbation. So that's I want you to understand. Huang. Basically, we, in addition to measure the accuracy, we also measure the robustness of the system. So the key concept in today's talk, I want to focus on evasion attack. The key concept of evasion attack is adversary example. So adversary example expose the fundamental blind spot in AI algorithm. Let's take a look at this image. It's a school bus and a temple on the lab. That's the original image. And in the middle are the perturbation of this image. On the right are adversary examples. To human, we don't see the difference between the image on the left and image on the right, right? They look very similar because the perturbation are very subtle. Our visual perception cannot identify them. But the neural network image identification system will classify these two images as ostrich. So that's totally misclassified into something else because of this perturbation. So we call this example, which cause the misclassification result, we call adversary examples. So these are the key concepts we're going to use through this talk. Another key concept is transfer attack. The transferability of this adversary example is fundamental concept which make the gray box and black box attack possible. So in order to explain that, I want you to look at two different models. So one is a target model. So that's the model we are going to attack. And then there's another model called substitute model, which attacker can create at his end. So basically, attacker can train its own model and generate the adversary example, crafted based on this substitute model, and then use this adversary example to test on their substitute model. If it successfully evades, and then it can try to deploy this model to the target systems. So this paper shows the transferability from one algorithm to another. The source machine learning techniques are the substitute model. You can see these are the popular machine learning algorithms, including deep neural network, logistic regression, support vector machine, decision tree, and k-nearest neighbor. So the target model, including the same similar model and the ensemble of all these models as a target system. The darker the color in the grid shows the more successful of the attack. So you can see if the attacker create a logistic regression model to attack support vector machine, the success rate is 91%, which means the attacker does not need to have access to your target model. It can create a substitute model at its end to create this adversary example and then deploy this adversary example to successfully target the victim system, right? So that's the transferability of this adversary attack. Now, our next agenda is to talk about some of the use cases of adversary machine learning attack. This is the hand-digit MNIST data. For instance, you can think about use cases in the bank, how the banking system may use this handwritten recognition system to recognize your handwriting, right? So you can see the upper row are the original data. It got successfully recognized what is 100%. It's in the bracket. That's 100% recognized they are correct from 0 to 9. But the following to the adversary attack, we can see, for example, the digit 6 is recognized as 0 with 95% of confidence. So that could cause a bad consequence, right? So that's in the digital space, we call digital attack. In reality, the attacker may not have access to the digital system. So this paper from CMU shows how to deploy a physical attack on facial recognition system. On the left, and this is Witherspoon, the actress. After we use this optimization algorithm to develop a pair of glasses in the physical space. So this image can be targeted attack to Russell Crowe. So the system will recognize this is no longer the read response that is reciprocal. Another example and use case is for medical imaging. This paper from Harvard Medical School shows digital attack and physical attack on X-ray. So the green tag shows the model is correct, and the red tag shows the model is incorrect. In the upper row is the clean image, and the bottom row is adversary image. For digital attack, you can see you got like a 100%. This is a malicious image, and this is benign. So it's totally opposite. And for human, we cannot tell the difference between these two after the perturbation. For the physical attack, it basically put adversary patch. Then this image become malicious, is supposed to be benign, and then this one is become benign, but is supposed to be malicious. Compared to the nature patch, we put in a random. It didn't cause the misclassification at all. Those two examples shows convolutional neural network for image processing are vulnerable. So this example from UC Berkeley work on speech recognition using recurrent neural network. The attacker can inject crafted non-speech noise to the smart speech recognition system, such as Alexa. It sounds to a human just like a white noise, but the AI system will recognize as unlock your front door or place an expensive order. So that could be a bad consequence. The previous example shows supervised learning, which for those people who are not familiar with machine learning, supervised learning are the learning paradigm. You have the labels for the data. So basically, you are telling the machine learning algorithm what type of image is, and then the algorithm will learn. This type of approach, you have label in the training phase, so that the algorithm can learn from the training data associated with the labels. And then in the test phase, it can predict unseen data, which classes or which category it belongs to. Another machine learning paradigm contrast to supervised learning, it's reinforcement learning. So for those people who are not familiar with reinforcement learning do not require labels. It's a time sequence of decision making based on the observation, we call state at each time stamp, and also the reward function, which encourage the agent to learn from the reward. The goal is to get the maximum reward in the time sequence of the decision. So it has been widely used for games and the robotics. So this UC Berkeley paper shows not just supervised learning approach are vulnerable. The reinforcement learning algorithm, different algorithm in reinforcement learning is also vulnerable to this type of attack. So basically, when they inject this perturbation to the input, it can cause the game originally winning become fail in the game. This is my previous work and my publication in 2018 in IJCNN International Joint Conference of Neural Network. We demonstrate the reinforcement learning vulnerability in driving system. Comparing this work with the game, we have a lower dimension of the features because the game using the pixels, so it's high dimensional pixel space. And another difference is we have continuous action and the game have discrete actions. So to explain the concept of reinforcement learning, we have the observation in like driving the speed x, y, z, and the angle and the number of the rotation per minute, track range and track position, rotation speed of the wheel. And then we have the reward function. Basically, we want to maximize the speed on the right direction and penalize any off the track or angles. The action including continuous action of acceleration, brake, and steering, thinking about driving by yourself, right? So this is a video to show how an RL engine, reinforcement learning engine, can learn by itself to drive by itself, and then when the attack happens, it will impact the driving policy and cause it off the track. Yeah, you can see the reward function originally growing when it's on the right track, and then when the attack happened, the reward function dropped significantly, and then the driving off the track. I want to use two use cases in McAfee to explain these adversary machine learning. One is malware detection. So we use open source data, Android malware data set, collected from 2 years, and with different apps from Android phones. The sample size, we have around 120K of the benign sample and 5K of malware samples. We use specifically the attack algorithm is called Jacobianbased saliency map approach developed by Pippenap to generate the adversary examples. The idea of this approach is to compute the gradient of the function with respect to the input to estimate and the perturbation in the input will change the output. We chose a perturbation of the input with maximum positive gradient into a targeted class. Right now we targeted to benign, right? We want to make malicious sample look like a benign so that we can evade the detection. So the parameter of M is the number of the features. In here, we have two classes. One is 0, which is benign, and one is class 1 is malicious, which is malware. So we ensure that only the API call are added, not deleted existing feature, so that malware samples still function maliciously. This is how an adversary example generated. So the original malware shown in the left, we have the feature index like 1,500, and then when this feature present is 1, and when this feature is not present, it's 0. So original sample was identified as malware with 91% of confidence. After we add 2 API call to this sample can evade detection because the classifier recognizes this is 100%, this is benign. We did the Whitebox attack on this data set. So the deep neural network is 4-layer. The original detection rate is 91%. After we add 2 API call, the detection rate dropped to 20%. So this is a very significant drop. We also did a Blackbox attack on this driven data set. We create a substitute model, which is a 5-layer neural network, and to create the adversary example. And we can see the detection rate also drop after the Blackbox attack. So it shows the transferability of this type of attack. We also developed a defense mechanism to detect this adversary attack. Basically, after the original neural network detect the sample is malware or benign, within the benign, we will perform another step to do the detection whether this is a real benign or fake benign. So we have a methodology to detect if this is an adversary example, then that's a fake benign, so we should block it. And if it's a real benign, then we will allow this sample to go through. So the detection rate after the defense, we can see the detection rate of adversary malware sample. We got very high detection rate. Okay, so another use case we investigating is for autonomous driving traffic sign recognition system. So as you know, in autonomous driving, there are 2 steps from the sensing part to the driving policy. So basically, you have a camera to catch the traffic sign and do image segmentation to segment this specific sign, and then conduct the image classification to recognize what type of sign it is. And then the output of this will become the input to another either reinforcement learning or other machine learning algorithm to develop the driving policy, either change lane or keep on this track. So we specifically investigating for the traffic sign recognition system, and specific focus on digital attack, which means we can manipulate the pixels here, or physical attack, meaning we can either put a sticker on the sign. We use the LISA dataset collected at UC San Diego for the US traffic sign, and we use 10 category of the signs. This shows the data distribution. We have like 1,800 of the stop sign, and then have different type of sign with a number of the image. And then we develop this convolutional neural network to recognize the traffic sign. We use this algorithm called basic iterative method developed by cracking to generate adversary example. Basically, idea is like a fast gradient sign, but try multiple times with small step. So it's more iterative way to improve the attack. So there are 2 parameters in this algorithm. One is how much the perturbation we should add, and then how many iterations we should run. So we specific chose alpha equal to 0.004, which is equivalent to changes 1 bit in the pixel. We conducted targeted attack. Basically, we want to target a stop sign to 35 miles speed sign. So you can see after 20 iteration, the classifier can achieve like 100% success rate to target a stop sign into a 35 miles speed sign for 15 stop sign we collected in our office neighborhood. And then we also did the research on universal attack on stop sign. So basically, we don't create this mask for each of the signs. We got the average across all the signs. By just using this universal noise map, we can generate the adversary example in batch size. And then we can see achieve very high success rate in the attack. This shows the physical attack. Original, this is a live demo, a real stop sign. We can get like 100% recognition. This is stop sign. But after we carefully craft this sticker and carefully place in this location, then the image recognition system recognize this is an added lane with 81% of confidence after the attack. So you can see the AI system are vulnerable to this type of attack. So that's why there are a lot of research focused on reactive defense and proactive defense, including like a timing attack detection, frequent retrain the model, and decision verification, and make the model explainable. Proactive defense, including robust learning and attack detection. There are some of the paper in this defense showing some of the defense mechanism in training procedures and like adversary retraining or data transformation, like project the data to low dimensional space or feature squeezing, or model architecture change like distillation, defense distillation, and formal verification methods. We also suggest to monitor your false positive, false negative drifting distribution change to make the defense more effective, and also utilize human in critical decision making, not low-level task, an active risk program implemented in analytic development and the verification, and upgrade your software as soon as possible. So in summary, I want to point out AI systems, they are vulnerable. We should work towards a secure AI system. So adversary machine learning continue to evolve daily, and the carries a balance between enable technology and providing impeders to the bad actors. That's a balance. And the defense mechanism and techniques in the model development also emerging. So we are hoping to have more robust system in the future to make machine learning and AI system can be safely adopted even in adversary setting. So thank you for your attention.